All right, how's it going, y'all? So I convinced Synology to send me a RS2423 Plus. Um, and here it is. So today we're going to be unboxing it and checking it out. Synology did send this to me for free, as well as hard drives and some other stuff like that. And I did tell them what videos I wanted to make on it, but they didn't get any like input into those videos or approve them after the fact, and they're not going to see anything before it goes live or anything. They don't have any control, so it's not sponsored by them or anything. But they did send this to me for free, which was very nice of them, and I do get to keep it. And this right here is the RS2423 Plus, not the RP version, just the standard one. I don't need RP, quite frankly, in my setups, and they tend to be a good bit louder. And we're gonna go ahead and unbox it and check it out and see what drives we've got in here, as well as a 25 gig NIC for this thing. And I really want to kind of just unbox it, see what the hardware's like, as well as how loud the thing is when it boots on up. Within that box, there was just another box. All right, so one reframe later, so now we can actually see the thing. But this right here is the RS2423 Plus. And I think it's actually a solid price point. It's only $2,000, which for the RP units actually pretty quickly gets out of hand. I believe the RS1221 Plus is $1,300. One advantage that does have that RS1221 Plus is the fact that it does not require Synology drives. This one does require Synology drives, but it does also have 12 bays instead of just 8, and a substantially more powerful processor, as well as, quite frankly, it is built to be much more enterprise. So I think the people who are looking at this are at a different level, but it's actually at a very good price point for what it is. If you try to buy a 12 bay Dell for under $2,000, you're not going to be able to do that at all. They have full-blown hot swap fans here, which is the first one I have seen. They come in very, very, very nicely, and all this is accessible while the device itself is fully running, which is great to see. In the back, it comes with one onboard 10 gig LAN, a expansion port, two 1 gig LANs, and this one is non-RP, so it just has a single power supply. I'm hoping this will make it much quieter compared to the dual power supplies, because I do know, especially with the RS1221 RP Plus, it is substantially louder than the non-RP version of that. Also has a serial port, two USB 3 ports, expansion port to add an entire 12 extra bays, and a PCIe expansion slot. All right, well, let's go ahead and open this thing on up and see what all is in here. All right, so the actual front plate is a pain to get off, but there's nothing really there. That's like true hardcore servicing where you're fixing the backplane or something. Nothing regular consumers would do. But the plate that actually hides the PCIe motherboard down here, as well as all the things you might actually replace in the service life of this device, can just be taken off with a single screw. And then what houses the fans is actually not even a screw. You literally just can pop it off while it's running. So it's very easy to actually set up and run. I always like to see that. And overall, this thing is definitely the most like server Synology that I've ever seen. Completely different ballgame from what you get with the RS1221 RP Plus. This thing it has got a full airflow shroud to bring as much airflow over the CPU's heatsink as you can. Massive CPU cooler compared to any other like smaller models. This is definitely one of their more enterprise ones that fully you would expect to see out of a Dell, honestly. You've got your completely hot swap fans that are easy to add and remove on there. Super easy. If I don't know Dell or HP's color schemes and how they normally do stuff, I would buy that they built this. It also looks to have a little SODIMM in here that I believe may actually store the DSM operating system, or at least the bootloader for it. So you know how you don't have to like go in and install like put a flash drive in the system to install DSM, it just kind of boots up. I assume that this is just a little SODIMM that has that on there. I don't think it stores the operating system. Yeah, and it says DSM 7.1. Yeah, so it must be that. I don't know how large this thing is. I guess all Synologies probably have something like this, but never had one that's easy enough to take apart and check out. Now, one thing I do like about this is easy to upgrade. To completely upgrade the networking card to add another networking card in here, you literally just have to unscrew 2 screws. One that holds the back panel on, and then the screw that just holds the PCIe slot shroud there. It is really, really easy to expand. So I'm just gonna go ahead and install that 25 gig card because this thing can pretty easily do 25 gig. This is a full height PCIe slot, so we're just gonna switch out the cover for that. Beautiful, got our card in there, and now I'm just gonna take the 1 screw off the top. And slot in our little PCIe card. This is a dual 25 gig SFP28 card. It's a half height PCIe. I just added that riser for nothing. All right, undo what I just did. All right, well, one unnecessary slot exchange later, and now we are back in, slotting the PCIe card on in. And it slots in quite nicely. Should get a fair amount of air cooling. There's a fan right in front of it, so you should not have to worry anything about that. But overall, this thing is pretty simple. Now, one thing it does not have, which I wish it did, was their new out of management IPMI ports, essentially. It would be nice to have one of those because I've been wanting to test them out. Though even the people who do have them, in my experience, are not that likely to use them a lot of time. So it is not something you need to go out and necessarily buy. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and film a little B-roll with this thing so you can see all of this glorious stuff that you've already been watching. And then we're gonna go ahead and install these drives in it. And then we are going to power it up and just install DSM really quick and just check it out. All right, so with this, Synology sent me 6 SSDs and 6 hard drives. They're the smallest ones of each that they've got. And actually, these are the new green models, the like plus models, and not the like fancier, I forget what the upper line Synology hard drives are. But these are the cheaper version, and it is actually good. I've been wanting to take a look at these for a while. But now we have to go ahead and install them in this thing. And one thing you might not know about the RS series is they do not have toolless installation like the DS ones do. They have these nice covers, which they're very good. They're strong. You don't have to worry about anything, but they are not toolless. There's none of those flip sides on there that you can just use to pop out. Either way, you would have to do it for these SSDs, but we're also going to have to do it with these HDDs. And that's where this guy comes in right here. Within the hardware box, there were only 3 things, 3 different items, a nice long power cable, and then 52 hard drive screws and 52 SSD screws. Because for whatever reason, hard drives and SSDs have different screw sizes, so you have to use the specific ones. My drill set to the lowest possible clutch speed, so I'm not going to accidentally strip anything. And we are going to go through and install, well, all 48 of these screws and all of these guys. So this should be fun. Now, one thing you should always do, especially this one, it's kind of got a difficult to follow screw guide. Before you do the other 12, or 11 in this case, take the first one, slot it in, and make sure it fits. Trust me, I've been there. It's not fun to have to redo your work twice. All right, 6 hard drives done. Now onto the SSDs, woo! Which are labeled as 2.5-inch hard drives, but they're in fact for 2.5-inch SSDs. Though I guess you could also use 2.5-inch hard drives with this as well. Thrilling. You know, this is not nearly as fun the 12th time. Plus, the SSD screws, a lot tougher to work with. And we're finally done. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and just slot these guys all on in here. And we can go ahead and finally start booting this thing on up and just playing around with it a little bit. And we are done. So honestly, with the SSDs, you don't need to put all the screws in, but I did anyway, just to be sure. And I am now finally able to boot this thing on up. All right, so moment of truth, how loud this thing is going to be. Where's my power button? All right, we're going to see how loud this is. Hopefully this is just how loud it is when booting. It's not terrible by far. It's really not bad, but it's definitely not quiet. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and install DSM on this thing. It is not quiet yet. All right. Well, the good news is the fans have spun down a fair amount. It's still not something you'd want probably in the same room as you, though it'd be fine. It's basically just currently the noise level of a loud computer. When it first booted, it was hanging out at a level that was not usable, but this is at a place where it is acceptable, I think, especially for a rack mount server, though it is definitely significantly louder than something like the RS2423 Plus, even the RS2423 RP Plus. Both of those are going to be significantly quieter. So I'm just going to go ahead and create our storage pools and volumes. We're going to set them up all as RAID 5 for both of these. So we're going to do the SSD. I always like doing my SSD as the main one. And I'm also going to go ahead and create my hard drive pool. Beautiful. All right. Well, that's more or less everything I want to do on this. There's a whole bunch more stuff I'm going to do in testing with this. This is not really the purpose of this video. I do want anybody to leave comments down below what they'd like to see on this thing. And the last thing we do before we leave is I'm going to go ahead and just see how loud these fans will get. Because right now we are on quiet mode. Let's bring it up to cool mode. Okay, quiet and cool have no difference apparently, but full speed will. Yep, that's a server. That's definitely a server. So definitely from a noise perspective, it's tough. It's tough. It's definitely, it's on the upper level of something I would acceptably have employees in the room with. I've worked in offices where there was much louder stuff, but it was not great. I think if it's in a rack, especially one with a back panel, even just with good airflow, it should be better. But it's definitely, it's not quiet. The fans do blow quite a bit. And so it's definitely going to be tough for certain workflows. And I will absolutely say there are a lot of places where you are not going to be able to deploy this server. Now, anything that's racked and enclosed and you're used to something like a power edge, unless you've got a very quiet power edge, I do have some, this is going to be much quieter than it. But it's definitely much louder than anything else. It's, according to the specs, over 50 decibels. For them, and that is quite loud. And I will definitely say this is not something that's going to be able to be run 24/7 with an employee in the office or right next to it, if you could possibly manage it. All right, well, that's going to be it for this. Go and leave any other tutorials like you making this thing or any other testing you'd like me to do. If you want to hire me, there's a link for that down in the description below. All right, have a good one. Bye.